Hey guys, how are you? This is Capricorn King here, coming at you with the divinely knowledges, the prophetic divinely knowledge that is this perennial atomic structure that is interweaving within and of itself the infinite ocean of the abyss, which is within you, imprinting and reflecting itself as the without, but it is within. That is the illusion. Right guys, the topic of this video is about people that are not quite there yet spiritually, and they're still subsumed by the density of the ego, and they're struggling, they're suffering. We cannot judge these people. You know, they're still, the illusion is that they are their egos. No, they're just emanating a lower vibratory frequency that's exemplifying the domain of that ego, which is very finite, but doesn't have to be your energy. So this video is about not to sympathize with that energy, because that only induces, as a reflected projection within yourself, it only induces an exacerbated kind of contracted effect of that situation, that scenario, if you do not respond with the volition of the heart, which is God. That is God. The heart, the atomic structure of the expression of the heart is God. That is God. And we're all just that. That is the happening of itself. But when you sympathize with the egoic version of them, which is the contrived falsity that's been gradually drip fed and inculcated, that over that many years, that is desensitized through the drip feeding them to the actuality of what they are, and the perennial force that we are animate of, that makes us what we are, is a constant. It is constant. There is no up or down, there is no left or right, one implies the other. It's centered, and we need to appease this within itself, recoil it so it's a spiral formation again, and it's not stagnating, because that force is indomitable. You cannot subdue it. It can only be temporarily repressed. In any moment, a spiritual master, anybody with, if the vibrational essence in which they're oscillating on is strong through love, that can immediately re-elicit the love within them, and that will completely, which I've said in another video, will inundate any effect of the ego. So be nice with these people. I've just had a recent encounter with this beautiful girl walking in the street, but she didn't recognize her own beauty. She was that subdued and consumed by the erratic state of the ego, that it's not enough and it's in lack and it's in deprivation, and they don't feel worthy to even talk to somebody in the street of a beatific essence. It's not reflecting their state in which they have subjected themselves to, and which they are under dominion and subjugation of, which is just an idea. There's no solidity to it. That's why it's false. It doesn't hold any water. But it's that consistent, it seems like it's real. It's habitualized neurally. It's a neural reflex to not think you're enough. And I just tried looking in her eyes and connecting. Didn't have to say much, but the ego wants to escape, and escapism induces an erratic state, so therefore you're not centered, and you get anxious and sweaty and hot and because it's frictional. We've all been there. I've been there. I was born like this, yes, but I went through the indoctrination conveyor belt and had this garment laid over me. That's all it is. You just got to take that stuff off. Take it right off, and you remember who you are. The intrinsic essence just be once you take that off and recede and realize what you're not. The intrinsic essence of what you are it's automated. It just becomes that of itself, and then you are the being of everything. This whole atomic structure, subatomic, holographic projection. You become the being of it, and it doesn't matter if it's a simulated projection. You're remotely viewing yourself through this aperture in this like a game kind of construct. It is the doing of itself. That only creates you to it only creates an externalization kind of notion in your mind. Then maybe that is the case. We might be on a high dimensional plane, condensed into this, in this atomic structure, carbonized atomic structure, experiencing itself somewhere else through this. That may be the case, but then if you emphasize and highlight on that too much, it can induce. You got to be very careful. There's a fine line. Know the knowledge, but just don't be of that knowledge. Just know, be in a state of omniscience of that through the volition of the heart, which is just doing itself. Because them other realms aren't. This realm is not a solidified thing. We consolidate it through the reflexes of the ego, but there is no solidity at all. We've conformed and consented to the idea that this pillow and this chair, this settee, this is solid. We've conformed to it. Science, we're living in an information era. Everything's become in a format. In format, ion. Ionic wavelength is motion. Ionic wavelengths create distortion. So it's being information in a format. What information are you getting? Is it the right information? Is it of the vibrational essence of your heart? You have to be very careful and decipher and distinguish what information you are receptive to and what you subject yourself to. You have to be very cognizant of that. But there's a new wave coming in. Everyone talks about something retrograde, this retrograde, that retrograde. You know, these things aren't new. There's nothing new under the sun, nothing old under the moon. I think that's the saying. I don't know, it's become a cliche now. It's true, there's nothing old, there's nothing new. This has been going on for millenniums, these retrogrades. People have just become cognizant of it in this era, all of a sudden. So it seems like a relatively new thing, but it's not. It is not at all. There's a planetary system in you which they call the chakras, and in Islam they call them latayafs, right? And it's the 7 planets, the 7 planes, the layers within you, the octave wavelengths of each layer is a reality in itself. And these things create a spiralized formation, the Fibonacci pattern, the sequence that's implicit in all of us. It's in all of nature. It exemplifies everywhere. It is the essence of our beings. It spirals up. So when retrogrades come, things come in an alignment that are all within you to show you more of what you are and where you are, through reflecting back in and of itself through the dynamics of the ego, to illuminate things from the ego in order to extricate them habits, to put you more in a congruent flow. This has been happening for millenniums. It's not a new thing. So I don't emphasize much on astronomy anymore. and astrology, sorry, because this has always been happening. We're fractalized expressions of the same perennial force, interweaving in and of itself. So the plant, this is like, I'm going on multi-tangents now. I'm going on, yeah. But it's all correlative. It's got to correlate. It has to correlate. It has to. Or else, if it doesn't correlate, it's a derivative from the ego. All these things are within and of themselves correlative. And we are that whole thing being itself. I'm talking right now. And it seems like you feel that. You see that? It is just one constant. Through the eyes. Yeah, the eyes. The windows to the soul, they call and they say, is one constant infinite stream. That just is the isness of it. Even to say is this or that is an inference of individuation. Or to say that you can't name it. It's not the named. It is not. It cannot be named. It is just. It is just, and that is it. It is just, and it is constant. And you are an expression of that constant thing, interweaving, interrelated oscillation. Like the ocean, you are one. You are the wave. You are a fractalized wave of the ocean, of the whole cosmos, expressing itself as you, as the you perceive yourself to be, and that is all it is. So when people are struggling with their ego, don't sympathize, empathize, and then it can be liberated within them just from reflecting through them, not what they are projecting, but empathize with that, so then it's more transmutatable. As a reflection, you show them through the eyes the love, and they will feel that, because you was once there too. And what would you have wanted in that situation? You would have wanted care and a loving response, not reaction. Reactions, they're all from the ego. Don't react. And when someone's trying to make you feel uncomfortable, that's their domain, that's their station, that's their vibration. That subjective focal point is their vibration. It doesn't have to become yours. Just keep responding through the autonomy of your heart, which is your station and your state of being, and then it is itself, and it will preserve. The preservation will do itself through just not reacting and just responding and going with the flow of that infinite stream and just embodying that always. It's a very deeply instilled, ingrained reflex for us to react. And then you subconsciously take on their energy and become that. And it's not you, it's not your energy, it's theirs. But just try and show them through exemplification. You don't have to do anything. You are the being of it. And that will depict that for them, to maybe re-invoke something within them, but you don't have to do anything else. We're all just love. And the thing that you think you shouldn't do in a situation or scenario or with anybody, say you've had trouble with somebody, you should always do the complete opposing to what you think you should do, because it's the ego. Say you've had a relationship and you meet that person, or you feel like you left that relationship on bad terms, ring that person up, call that person up, because the source energy that's expressing itself as you is them too, and appease it, reconciliate it. But it doesn't mean it has to be intimate. That's the ego. It wants to contract again. It wants to be with that person, integrate with them intimately. It doesn't have to be that way. Intimacy doesn't have to be physical. That is ego again. So just ring that person up. Call that person. Call them now. Call them up and say, and don't just habitualize, try and avert away from the habitual patterns in reaction to their voice, and try and steer it through your heart, and just go with the flow of that, and try and be with them in their heart, and you will steer them into that way, into that dimensional reality that's of a higher essence, and call that person back, and through love work with it, acclimate to that with them, and it will reciprocate, and say you're sorry, and say that this relationship, we illuminated things within ourselves, and we are now at a more soul evolutionized, transmutatable state than we were prior to being together, and we've taught each other something. So do that. Anyways, guys, that was the topic of the video. Respond through the volition of your heart, and do not react from the ego. And remember, you are just love, and it's that simple. You just have to remember, it's in you. It is in you. The illusion is that it's not. Anyways, guys, I'm out. Peace and love.